Good afternoon, folks. This is the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. My name is Glenn Glasper, affectionately known as Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime. And my guest today is the awesome deal closing machine, Mr. Carson Olinger. And I'm going to bring Carson up with us here in just a second. And we're going to get into how to get started investing in real estate. He's going to give us some of his strategies and things like that. And he's also going to talk about subject to investing, one of my favorite topics. So stick around, and we're going to have Carson come back up and share with us some of his ideas of how to get started investing in real estate. So stick around. We'll be right back with you.
Thank you again for having me. It looks like it's going to be a good time.
Definitely.
My name is Carson Olinger. I am managing partner of Capital City Equity Group here in the northern suburb of Atlanta. I work in the real estate investing field, obviously, and I also am president of a local RIA that meets in Gainesville called North Lake RIA. We're an open RIA with an educational platform. As an investor in real estate, I kind of do a little bit of everything. So honestly, I started off wholesaling like most of us do. It's someone called the gateway drug, I heard. But
it is. It definitely is.
Exactly. So kind of got into it from that perspective. And then I had a goal in mind. I wanted to own and operate my own portfolio because from what I read and what I understood about real estate, which I love, it's just a passion of mine, is the way to really make money and to really generate a business is to have cash flowing properties. But in order to get there, there's some stepping stones you had to do. You had to crawl a little while, and then you had to walk, and then stand up and start running. So that's been my journey. I started doing this. Actually, I'm coming up on my 3rd year anniversary here, Glenn. July 4th will be 3 years of investing. So I'm excited about that. I've got a couple of deals I'm getting ready to close here. So I'm hoping to get to 55 deals actually closed by July 4th, which I think I'm going to hit. Wow. And I'm pretty excited about that. It's just a milestone for me. I know there's a lot of guys out there that are doing a lot more volume, but they focus strictly on wholesaling. However, I've progressed. I don't want to say evolved because wholesaling is an incredible business. If that's what your focus is, that's just part of what I do. So I still wholesale, but primarily right now I'm doing a lot more fixing and flipping, rehabbing that is. But I also try and hold on to properties where I can. That makes sense. I might apply the Burr method, which we can explain later if need be, but simply put, just buying a property, rehabbing it, and then refinancing out of it so you don't leave your capital in the house. My goals were when I started to create a business, not a job. And I've still got somewhat of a job, but I'm got the front end of a business. So it's starting to evolve in that regard. So I'm happy with that. But my journey started 3 years ago. As I said, the Lord led me here. I'm a Christian man. My wife and I did a lot of soul searching and praying to get out of the corporate world. I have another business that I own. It's a packaging business, completely unrelated to this. And it didn't do as well as I would have hoped. It's still viable. It still brings in income, but we needed to do something different. And I've always had a passion for this. And my wife gave me a lot of encouragement as well as helping me to focus with what the Lord wanted us to do. Because ultimately we wanted to provide for our family, but at the same time, we wanted to help others. And quite honestly, Glenn, there's a lot of people out there that are just struggling and their house becomes quite a burden. So what we try and do is create solutions for those people and help them get maybe better off down the road than what they would have been otherwise. For instance, a foreclosure or something like that. So we'll provide them those solutions, but wholesaling is still some of what I do. So the properties that I don't need, I wholesale off. The properties I want to hold on to, I then go ahead and fix and flip those. And then the ones I want to keep long-term, add to my portfolio, I try and just refinance those. So we also get a lot of creative stuff going in there too. And that's one thing we'll talk about here shortly, which is subject to acquisition. I'll allude to that here in just a little while, or further that I should say. But a little bit more about me. It's pretty simple. I use the gifts and the talents that the Lord gave me, but I have become acutely aware of the weaknesses that I have, which are many. So what I try and do is associate myself with people like yourself, Glenn, that know more than I do. And
a little bit. Just a little bit.
Well, I believe the Lord gave you talents that I don't have, and vice
Yes.
versa. And I feel if we have that synergy, if we have that collective unification of resources, that we're all going to be able to grow. We all can help each other. I use terminology that some people think might be a little arrogant, but I don't believe in any competition. People say, well, does that mean you're so awesome that you can just run circles? No, that's not what I mean by that. What I mean is there's so much business out there. There's so much opportunity to have a mentality like this. And so I'm not talking to anybody. It just doesn't have that open arm mentality of saying, hey, let's collectively try and grow our respective businesses so that you can benefit, Glenn, and other people that we work with can benefit as well as us. So not only can benefit financially, but we can benefit and grow and learn more, because the people I associate with and the people I run around with, as I said, they usually know more than I do. And I've got a funny expression because I go to a lot of networking meetings. And I think that's how we met several years ago.
Yeah.
But I like to always find some reason to go to a networking meeting. And some of them can be a bust, as we all know. It's like, what did I come all the way out here for?
Right.
But if I spent that much time going to a networking meeting, and this is how I built my business, I'm going to get something out of it. It's an investment of my time. And when I first started, I didn't have much money to do this. I just had time. Matter of fact, I had no money. And it can be done. And that's one thing I'm going to talk about here loosely is how to start from literally having no money, using other people's money to buy your deals. And to this day, I can honestly say I've never used a single penny of my money on all 50 of the deals that I brokered and closed, whether they were wholesales or flips or rentals or what have you. I used other people's money. They benefited because they profited from the investment, and I benefited as well. But we also helped a lot of people in the interim, meaning some of the people that were selling their houses. But I always try, like I said, surround myself with people that know more than I do, because you can always be learning in this business. You're always going to learn something, whether it's learning from something that I have, or I'm talking to you, Glenn, about another topic and marketing or what have you. It's some way to grow your business. So collectively working with others, I think, is the key to doing this business successfully. If you try and be on an island and try and do it all yourself and manage everything, you might do well in a certain bubble, but you're not going to succeed the way you probably want to. You got to open things up.
Definitely.
So that's kind of my background, my story, if you will. I'm continually trying to put, Jesus first, others second, and then me last. And if you keep those things in check, I think it really works to your advantage, because it keeps you humble. You start doing meetings like these on platforms as strong as yours, and you start thinking, wow, I've really made it. But you look around you and you're like, there's a lot of people that I aspire to kind of work towards that are mentors to me, because there's always somebody bigger in the room, right? Definitely. I just try and seek those people out. So what's ultimately happened here is I've surrounded myself with people that have probably forgotten more than I know, which is awesome, because I can learn from them. And that's the environment I'm trying to create. And so what I would tell other people starting out in this business is to go to networking meetings. I found Meetup is a great platform. If you're not on Meetup, I would encourage you to get on Meetup and just put in real estate, put in investing, put in networking, all the buzzwords that would associate with that, and a myriad of stuff is going to pull up. And you're going to see that there's meetings in your backyard, in your local neighborhood, that meet once a month or once a week that you can go to, and go to these things and meet people and ask the stupid questions, right? But there is no such thing as a stupid question. People will encourage you to ask those questions. So I think we met. I don't know, which one did we meet at, Glenn? Where did we meet?
Oh man, we've been at so many together. I don't recall.
I remember seeing you, I think, over at Joe's meeting when it met over at the off of once meeting, and I remember being very impressed with how you commanded the room when you stood up, and I was like, wow, I gotta try to do this, because everyone was paying attention. You were very vocal, you were expressive, but you were very to the point. This is what I do. This is how I can help you. This is what I want, right? And it really resonated with me. So that was one of my, I used you as a inspiration, I guess I should say, when I first started. I got to do just like this guy's doing. He's got it going on.
Thank you very much for that. I just, that was one of those. See, and that comes from years of experience of nobody listening to me.
Right.
So, but Carson, listen, man, I want to say, we're men. I can tell you this. You warmed my heart, man, from the very beginning of your opening. We're like-minded in many ways, but in the one way that I want to really specifically point out is that you're a Christian, you're a believer, and I think a lot of times people miss that part of the connection. And this is not, a religious program or anything like that.
Right.
But I do want to, emphasize how in many ways we're more alike than we are different. And sometimes we miss that, so I just, I want to just reach out and give you a big old hug, virtual hug.
Give me one of these across the field.
Right, exactly. But listen, again, I want to thank you for coming on. And you shared something that I want to make sure we get the people to grasp. You said earlier on that you have a job or sort of a job in a sense in the way of real estate investing. And I certainly understand how that can be, when we're building something and, it's like, we had a little bit of chat, I think yesterday we were talking about how we're ever going.
Right.
So give us a little bit of an outline of what your day is like, because this is actually going to lead up to the getting started investing in real estate. But I want to kind of get a more of an idea of what your day is like and how you would, I guess, define in a sense what you're doing is more similar to a job in a sense.
Sure. So in my opinion, the difference between a job and a business is a job is where you're trading your time for money. Okay. Yeah. Whether that's working at Publix or whether it's working a construction job or working at a bank or whatever it is, you're working for typically somebody else. In this case, I'm working for myself, but the bottom line is you're trading time and you're getting paid for that time. Definitely. But a business is something that's passive, where you don't necessarily have to spend the amount of time because the business is running. I mean, you look at Amazon. Yeah, there's people that are spending time working on that, but money's continually coming in. They roll off to the Bahamas for a couple of weeks.
Right.
Business is still coming in. In the real estate world, that translates to passive income. Passive income should be the goal of most anybody within real estate, because truly that's where the business comes from. You can look at a wholesaling business, much like some of the larger wholesaling companies out there, but they've got an infrastructure of people under them where the owner that created it can go to the Bahamas and money still comes in because the systems are running. And that's really the difference. I see a lot of investors that go out and swing hammers, and they're in there knocking out walls, and they're getting the glam shots of, hey, look at me, I'm busting the wall down, or I'm digging a ditch. My time is better spent finding the deals and then hiring that out. And people say, well, you're wasting a lot of money that you could be saving by doing the job yourself. And I always use this analogy. I said, hey, you got a 401k, you got an IRA, you got stocks. So yesterday, when you were on the New York Stock Exchange trading out your stocks, how did you buy and sell? What did you want to get, and why did you do it? Well, they said, well, wait a minute, I didn't do that. My broker did. Well, right. Exactly, because you're investing. You're not actively up there trading that. You've invested wisely and let that go on. Well, the same thing with real estate. You spend your time to get what you need, but then have somebody else do that work, because your time and your focus should be on creating more opportunities rather than saving $5 or even $5,000 on doing the work yourself. Because that $5,000 you saved, you may have given up a $50,000 opportunity because you weren't fielding calls or following up on leads.
Wow.
So that's really the difference to me. And I look at the cost of doing business with a general contractor that might have a 10 or 15% markup. What's my time worth now? Because now they can go and do that. I can potentially get a project manager to go and see those for me, pay them out of the profits of the deal, and I can drive down more business and I can nail them down. My job is to find deals and to close deals. Okay. Now, ultimately, what I hope to do is bring more people on to help find those deals and to close those deals. Okay. I'm just not in a position yet to do that, but I use a lot of systems to allow me to do that. So quite honestly, right now, Glenn, I spend zero time looking for leads. I have a system that brings them to me. And I was actually having a conversation with another investor today about how to scale that up so that I don't have to spend as much time, but to allow my systems to do that for me. Now, I will say this, we're talking about getting started. It's not something I did right out of the gate, because why? I didn't have any money. I did not have the money to invest in these systems. I didn't have the money to go put $30,000, $40,000 down on a deal. So I had to do things smartly and be creative. And I know we've got the Me Too movement that's out there, and I'm going to use the term Me Too, but I'm not alluding to what everybody thinks it is.
Right,
so
right.
I asked you at a networking meeting, Glenn, what do you do? And you say, hey, I'm a real estate investor. I'm like, me too. I asked this day, what do you do? I'm a real estate agent. Me too. Well, if you think about that dialogue, our mind is already set. I know what that is. There's no open-ended question there. So we're going to move on to something else. And I use that same Me Too concept to be, I don't want to be a Me Too. So how do people find deals? You go to a networking meeting and then they'll ask you, and I'm sure, Glenn, you know. So what's the typical way people find deals?
Typically, most people will probably go out and drive for dollars or.
Me too.
Yeah.
Or bandit signs. Me too. Or yellow letters. Me too. Well, we're all doing those same things.
Right.
So I thought about this because my background is in sales and marketing to some degree.
Oh, wow.
How do I differentiate myself? How do I not be part of that group? Because that's all cold calling, right? You're dialing in, you're hoping to get something out of that. Your rate of returns are a lot low. So what I did is I went and did what others don't, because I didn't want to be a Me Too investor. So I went out and found creative ways of finding properties. And one of the nuggets I'll share here, it's not a secret. I love sharing everything I do. And if you got a pen and paper, write this word down, because it's a big word and it's hard to pronounce, but it's called dispossessory. So dispossessories, quite honestly, are leads that you can get for free, but you have to go work for them. And you have to go into the county courthouse, wherever you live, and pull those up. And so where do you get a dispossessory, and what is a dispossessory? A dispossessory, simply put, is an eviction. So an eviction, you think if you got a landlord trying to get somebody out, that's probably a distressed property. That's probably a motivated landowner or property owner. So you've got motivation, which is critical, and they're active. So you can get that information by ferreting it out or data mining it out of your local magistrate court. It's important to know where to go in the court system, the magistrate court. Because if you think about it, if you're a landlord and you're trying to evict somebody out of your house, Glenn, we're not walking up and grabbing them by the ear. You got to call the sheriff, right?
Exactly.
There's a process there, which the landlord has to fill out at the county level. That's all public information. So you get their phone number, you get the name of the investor, you get the name of the property, when they're getting the eviction, and now you've got a lead, because typically the phone numbers are in there. You can call them up or email them, or you can send them a letter, but you know you've got somebody motivated. And what's interesting, I always get something out of those leads. I either get the lead itself, yeah, I want to sell that property, it's a dog, or no, I don't want to sell that one, but I got this other one over on the other side of town that I do want to sell.
Right.
Okay. Or you know what? I'm not really selling, but could you put me on your buyers list? Because I'd like to buy some more properties. So I'm always getting something out of those leads. It's really interesting. And every once in a while you hit a whale. Yeah, I got 50 properties and I'm 75 years old and I want to divest. Like gold mine, right? So we come across those too. So if you're starting out, you don't have any money, like me when I did, I would highly recommend looking at dispossessories, eviction lists. Problem you're going to have is you're going to go to the county courthouse and they're going to look at you like, what you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. So you almost have to walk them through the process. And the first time you do it, it's going to be a little laborious and time consuming, because you have to understand their system at the courthouse. But after you do it once or twice, you're going to get in and get out within 30 minutes. And the nice thing is, every week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, every time you go back, you got a new set of lists. And they're right there because they keep growing. So it's one way I got ahead. I got a lot of very good leads by using dispossessories, and not many people will do it. Why? Because it takes work and it's not easy. So that's part of my Me Too speech. So I don't like to be like others. I do drive them for dollars. I do some of the traditional stuff because I may have time. I'm in a neighborhood and I'll do that. But getting started, that was one of the primary ways I found leads. And then as I started closing some deals, setting some of my capital, I started investing that small. I wanted to walk before I ran to get my systems in place. Okay. And now I've evolved to where I am. Now I'm trying to scale that business up a little bit more. But the other side of the coin is what we alluded to a little while ago, Glenn, is networking. There's a lot of little phrases and coins we use, and I think you even used it. I may have taken it from you, but it was your network equals your net worth.
Net worth.
Yep.
I'll take credit for that. I'll take credit for that.
Get a hashtag, put that at the bottom of your
right.
So go to networking meetings. Surround yourself with people, like I said, that know more than you. Ask the questions that you want to ask. You'll be amazed how many people will come out of the woodwork, like myself, like Glenn, to help you do the things that you want to get to and answer the questions that you think, oh my gosh, I just don't know if I should ask that because it seems like it's pretty rudimentary. We all started there, and we all want to help, because ultimately if we help each other, we're going to be partners in some deal. I'm going to, hey, Glenn, man, I've got this opportunity and I need another 50 grand. It's a good deal. You want to go 50-50 on it? And I know that he knows what he's doing and I know what I'm doing. We could partner on a deal and we could nail it down. So through my networking, I found cash. And I'll say this, the only reason I found cash is because when I started at the beginning, I had an end in mind. I had to know where I was going. There's all kinds of books you can read about there, work with the end in mind and those types of things. But I was always honest. I was ethical, and I didn't compromise my integrity for a buck.
Absolutely.
The money will come. But because I established credibility, I was able to get people loaning me money because I was credible and my deals were good. And it's not just credibility meaning, hey, I'm not going to lie to you. It's credibility in your numbers. There's a lot of people that get into this and they don't know the numbers. I would strongly advise to you, get with somebody that knows how to crunch those numbers with your deal. Partner with them. Be willing to give up some of that money when you sell that wholesale deal, because you'd rather get something than nothing, but you're going to learn how to be credible. So you need to know your ARVs, you need to know your rehab budgets, and you need to know what an investor who might buy that wholesale deal needs to acquire it at to have a profit margin that's acceptable to them.
Wow.
So
I want to dive in. I want to dissect what you're saying a little bit, because you're giving some really, really good information here. I want to make sure people are basically they're capturing the information that you're saying. So one thing you did mention, and you're actually leading with a lot of that. You're being spot on with what you're sharing. You mentioned going and you're talking networking, and your network being your net worth. One of the things that I always say that people need to pay attention to is being intentional about their networking. And that's really what you're sharing when you said you go to the different meetings and you always leave with something. I think many people go to meetings just for the sake of going to meetings a lot of times, and there's no strategy behind it. So, and then I want to get into the credibility piece. The credibility piece. I want to get to that. But let's talk about when you go to a networking event, right? Even those ones that, we've seen that are a bust, and I've been to plenty of them myself.
Sure.
What is the goal? Do you have a specific goal in mind? Tell the folks, if there's a new person that's watching, what is a specific goal in mind that they should go with when they're going to these networking events?
Well, that's a great question, Glenn. So in any goal that you set, whether it's a networking meeting or something in your business, as a manager previously, and you have to have several sets of criteria with any goal. One, is it attainable, right? Hey, I want to make 700 phone calls today. Well, that's really not attainable, okay? Make it attainable so that you can accomplish that goal, so that you feel successful, right? So, and I'm going to circle back into the networking. Is it measurable? Meaning, hey, I want to meet some people tonight. Well, do you want to meet one or do you want to meet 20? Okay. How many do you want to meet? So it needs to have some measurability, right? I need to make 16 phone calls and I want to meet that goal. And that's attainable and it's measurable. Okay. And I also, with my goals, not only are they attainable, not only are they measurable, but are they productive? What am I going to use with that information? So tying that into networking. When I go to a networking meeting, depending on what type it is, one, I want to let people know who I am. I've got my logo on right now. It's on my truck.
Yes.
It's on my business cards. It's in your face on Facebook. I'm throwing it up all over the place, right? Because I like I said, there's another investor that I work with. Her name is Amy, and she uses a phrase that I use quite often. And I will give her credit for that. Your brain is a muscle, and you can condition people's brains, just like lifting weights, to think certain ways. And if you brand yourself and you're continually, repetitively doing the same message, much like your marketing, I see it's the same format every time. When I see it, I automatically think Glenn. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're repetitive, but you're putting out good content. So when you go to these networking meetings, my goal is to meet people, let them know who I am and what I do. And when I tell people what I do, I always make sure there's open-ended questions for them. So they say, what do you do, Carson? Do I tell them, hey, I'm a Me Too investor, like I'm an investor? No. I tell them I'm a real estate solution provider. Whoa, what is that? You know, it's like an entrepreneur. It's this ambiguous concept, right? I do that to elicit questions. Well, what does that mean? So it gives me an opportunity to talk about my story and everything else. You got 5 minutes to talk to this person. You need to make an impression. Okay. Sometimes you want what they have, and you just need to make sure you're credible in their eyes. Okay. So one, I want to meet them and I want to let them know what I do. But the Lord gave me 2 ears and He gave me one mouth. And I know I'm talking a lot here, but you asked me to. So are we still on?
Yeah, yes, we're still on.
All right. So 2 ears and one mouth. So I will tell people what I need to say, and then I'll stop and I'll listen to them. Because people love to talk about themselves.
Absolutely.
And allow them to do that. Allow them to talk. And a lot of times it's hard because we've got an objective. But if you allow them to talk and follow up, it usually works well. That's my primary goal, because I'm trying to build a buyer's list of people so I can wholesale things out, right? But I'm also trying to network to create lenders to come to me, or other people that want to feed me deals, because I've got another division of my business that I do marketing for people. So I've got a very strong buyer's list. But someone might get a deal and they don't have a market to sell it. They don't have enough buyers in that geography. Well, I do. And I will do marketing for them for a fee, but I never take 50%. Don't ever give someone 50% of your deal if you've got it under contract. You can broker something different. You work hard to get that. There's value for that. So in that networking, I want to get these things. These are the things I'm looking for. Can I build my network? Can I find somebody smarter than me? Can I get my name out there? And can I give out at least 5 business cards? If I walk outside this door today, out of my office, I'm always going to give out 5 business cards. Might be the waitress, might be the mailman, might be the UPS guy. They know the areas really well. Hey, I'll give you $500 for a lead that I close. Wow. And that's great. Make your next car payment. So I do those types of things. So those are typically my goals. Now, if there's a topic, I want to learn about that topic, then I will take notes and learn about that topic and ask questions, the stupid questions that I don't know and I want to know. So I'm getting something out of that, and I'll go to those meetings. Okay. Typically, I don't pay for meetings. There are people say, oh, you got to join these and join those. I very, very rarely pay for networking meetings. But that's not to say that if you have to pay, it's not a good meeting. There's a lot of great meetings out there that you can pay for. I just find getting started and not having a lot of money, it was advantageous for me to find the free ones. And I've continued that. Now, I still go to quite a bit, but I can be more targeted in where I go, because now I'm just keeping the ball rolling.
Great stuff. And that's the thing that, I mentioned about being intentional. When you're talking targeted and specific, especially going to events where there's a topic that you're going to learn about. Sometimes people don't have a system in place, and they don't have they're not organized about their networking.
Right.
So what you're sharing is definitely spot on. So let's get a little bit more into the credibility piece, right? You spoke about credibility.
Sure.
And the thing that you mentioned about being consistent with your branding, being consistent about who you are, and things, people can recognize like your brand. So even with me and branding, I am no brand expert by any means.
Right.
And I just learned by watching people, certain things, I want my things to continuously show up. What can you tell the folks about building the credibility piece and being consistent in helping people to know who you are?
So content's important. Okay. How are you helping others? How are you showing others what you can do to help them, and showing the successes that you've had to lend credibility to that. So when I first started, I didn't have a single deal, but I knew I wanted to get my name out there. So I would be reading a lot of articles on the internet, and I would post articles that I read. I was simply just reposting somebody else's information with maybe a comment or two, teasing something that I was interested in. Wow, I read halfway through the article that you can do this, that, and the other thing. Really interesting. This can help me in my business. Post the article. Content that's relevant to others. Okay, now they're seeing me providing them something tangible. Okay, I don't want to throw up every day on Facebook by 16 live chats and 27 posts because people tune you out. Right. So talking to other people that were smarter than me about this, they said you need to make 2 to 4 posts per week that have some relevant content. Okay, and so that I purposely sought out these articles, and I would read them, and I would make comments on them. And then I would show people what I was doing. Hey, I'm out in the field looking at a house, and hey, there's a picture of me, right? I'm just taking a selfie with the house behind me. So people can see that I'm active and I'm doing things. Because I use Facebook. I need to get on Instagram. I'm not 27, so I just not Instagram yet. But I need to get on there. It's a powerful tool.
I guess I'll take the 27. I'm on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm 29, so I'm a little outside of that.
Right.
So I got to get on that. They're powerful free tools. And as a result of being on Facebook, now I'm in 40, 50 different Facebook groups. So when I make one post, I just share it to all the other posts, pages, that is. So now I'm in lots and lots of platforms, and I get comments and things like that. So I'm always sharing. But Facebook is what it is. It's look at me, positive. I'm on the beach drinking a pina colada, all right? It's all the good stuff, right? Happy habit.
Yeah.
We all want to see that. Video is important. I think videos speak more than pictures. So when you're putting your stuff on Facebook, think about where your video is, where your brand logo is, where your pictures are, and make sure there's some content there. Make sure the video is not too long. People don't want to watch me for an hour walking on the beach.
Right.
For 2 minutes, we'll go keep an eye on that, right? So keep it consistent. I mean, we can't be so self-absorbed that everybody wants to watch us. But at the same time, if you're doing something interesting, I had one property, we had a truck out there and a front end loader, and we were tearing down a shed, and I filmed that because people love destruction. So here's destruction of a shed, and it was kind of cool. So that helps. But Facebook, get on Facebook. Get on there, be active on Facebook. You don't have to pay for anything on Facebook, and it works really well. So that's one of the platforms I use. And like I said, Glenn, I'm going to probably move into Instagram. So those help me out. Now I've got several websites that are getting out there. So I'm getting a lot of organic feedback and organic hits on my website because of that, because I have a blog that I do as well, and that ties in there. So the content is out on the internet, and people can easily find me and my company.
Great stuff. Great stuff. You know, I opened a TikTok account.
Did you?
I did a post. Apparently, nobody has seen it because clearly I have no idea what I'm doing with TikTok.
Well, you're supposed to dance if you do TikTok.
Right. But I hear, surprisingly enough, I hear that there's great marketing opportunities using TikTok. Like some people are getting away from Instagram. Well, not getting away from Instagram, but they're incorporating TikTok with the videos. They're doing live videos on TikTok, and they're incorporating them with Instagram and Facebook. So, I'm like, I opened the account. I don't know what's going to become of it, but we'll see what happens with that.
But you speak to a great point, Glenn. You're out there looking for different solutions. Okay. You're not me tooing it. You're not doing what everybody's always doing. You're on Instagram. You're on TikTok. You're doing different things to get your brand, your name out. You've got several podcasts and radio shows that you're doing. So you're doing things outside of the box, and that's the way you have to think. How can I get to where I want to go, doing the things that I need to do in a way that other people are not doing them? Because you will stand out if you're doing things. So I mentioned the fact that everything's positive on Facebook. So what I did is just the opposite of that. I created a Facebook page called Real Estate Investment Fails. And it's for all the screw-ups that we all do, including me. So you put that stuff on there, and you share your experiences of this did not work out, and this is why. And people can learn from that. There's positive content that can come out of that. My mistake does not need to be yours.
Absolutely.
My dad once told me, he was in the military for 26 years. And he said, I moved around every 4 years. I bought, 15, 20 houses, whatever it is. I can't remember the number. And he goes, the first house, I made a ton of mistakes. Second house, I didn't make as many mistakes. I still made mistakes, but I didn't make the same mistakes. And eventually he started getting it right. And he made little mistakes here and there. And as adults, I'm going to use some Dave Ramsey terminology here. When we make mistakes as adults, they have zeros on the end zone.
Absolutely.
So we need to be acutely aware of what we're doing. So
Right.
we talked about credibility. So in order to be credible with my investors, the ones that are lending me the money, they need to have reasonable assurance that this deal, if it goes sideways, they're still making money.
Yeah.
So I'm buying properties that are significantly below ARV. So I've got room to make money for myself and my investors. But even if things go sideways, I'm still breaking even. Worst case scenario, they're still making money because my first commitment is to my investors, right? Got to make sure they're made whole. If I break even, I'm fine with that. I mean, as long as I don't lose money, right? But
Right.
I've got to get them squared away first. And if you go with that mentality, you're going to be fine. So always make sure you got enough spread. So if they're telling you, hey, the ARV is 280, then you're going to balance that number at like 260, 265. Because that's what, if you can get 280, great. But what if you can't? What if you hold it for a couple, 3 months longer because, I don't know, COVID shows up and now you got problems. Things like that pop up. So you avoid 2007, 2008 by buying smartly. One of the terms people use is you make your money when you buy the property, right? If you buy it right, it doesn't matter what happens. The market could drop by 15%. You're still going to be ahead of the game because you bought it right. You're just not going to make as much, but you're still going to be ahead of the game.
Great stuff. I mean, and these are all great things that, the new investor, as well as the intermediate or experienced investor, these are things that people really should be paying attention to, because even, in many cases, people get to a certain point. Like I made the mistake years ago. I was just running and gunning, because it was easy. I was shooting baskets because they kept pushing the basket towards me. So I was making But now, it's not as simple as it once was. I won't say easy, but it's not as simple as it once was. And I think, in those days, I guess even in some days, some ways today, you could count on being at least right twice in one day, kind of like a broken clock.
Right.
But now, you have to be a bit more strategic, so when you talk about making mistakes, even in those times, when before the market crashed the first time,
right.
I was able to do well, even making a ton of mistakes. But as a result of the mistakes I made, I learned a lot more to be a bit more strategic in these times. And it always takes, like you said, being around the people that know more than you know, that will help you through those situations and help you understand that these mistakes can be made and they can be costly. Because there's, I've made mistakes to the tune of 4 or 5, maybe 6 zeros in some cases.
Wow. Yeah.
But that's great information. And talking about credibility, those are great tips to share with folks, in new and old investors. But I want to talk about a little bit more. You talked about the strategy of subject to investing.
Right.
How does that tie into what you do as an investor? Is that a primary strategy of yours, or is that something that you use one-off, or do you go into to most deals looking to do a subject to, or is that just something that you end up using as a strategy?
So interesting question, because
I'm sorry. For the folks that may not know, can you explain to them what a subject to is?
Sure. So subject to, quite simply, is buying a property while keeping the existing mortgage in the seller's name while you own the deed. It's kind of akin to an assumption of mortgage, which most banks will not allow.
Right.
So one of the questions that come, well, that's illegal. You can't do that. Wrong. It's 100% legal. The issue is banks just don't like it because they didn't make the loan to me. They made it to the seller.
Right.
But as long as they're getting their money and no one's complaining on the seller end or my end, the banks aren't going to be any worse for the wear. And they typically know it. They typically see it. They look for it. They know it exists. But they have a performing asset, okay, as opposed to a non-performing asset, because most subject twos are acquired from investors like myself when a seller is 2, 3, 4 months behind on the mortgage already. So the bank has a non-performing asset. Okay. Now what we do is, a lot of cases, these houses are going to foreclosure. So what happens to these people? The house is going to foreclosure. Okay. I'm seeing these deals a month or two before they hit the foreclosure versus buying a foreclosure list, me too investing. Okay. I'm seeing that. And I've got more time to structure this deal, because these people selling, if their house is being sold in 2 weeks, they've already quit. They're not seeking anybody out. They're not looking. They're not motivated. They're like, I'm done. They're moving on. They just accepted the fact that they're going to be out and they've got nothing. If they're still looking, that's telling me they're trying to save something. So I can go in and say, hey, you're going to lose your house. If you do nothing, you're out and you got nothing. They're going to chase you for the 5 months that you owe them, and you're going to have this huge ding on your credit. Why don't I help you by doing this? Why don't I give you $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, whatever it is that makes sense for the deal? I'll give you that at the closing table. I will own your house in deed and title. The mortgage, however, Mr. Seller, is going to stay in your name. And I'm going to catch that mortgage up at the closing table. So I'm going to pay $5,000 to you, and your $1,000 a month that you have 5 months, I'm going to pay another $5,000 to your bank, so that when we walk away from that closing table, your mortgage is current. I own the house. You've moved. And by the way, don't ever let them stay in the house and rent to them. No. Why would you do that? They can't make the payment anyway.
Right.
Plus, there's some legal issues that potentially could happen down the road that could be viewed by a judge as predatory if things go sideways, which is very, very rare. So best case is just get them out of the house, let them move on, give them their money, motivation, right? And catch their mortgage up so that the foreclosure process is stopped. Okay. And then, hey, I got a $1,000 a month mortgage I got to pay to them, to the bank, Bank of America, whoever. You don't pay this guy. I hope he pays the mortgage. You pay the mortgage directly. Banks will take your money, believe me. They will. Okay. And we do that. So now let's just say, for instance, there's a $200,000 house. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'm working on one right now. It's a $315,000 house. It's got a $202,000 mortgage. We're buying the house for $210,000. Okay. House needs a little bit of work, but not much, probably 15 to 25. Okay. Cosmetic stuff. So he owes 202. We're paying him 210. So, and he's current on his mortgage. We're going to pay him $8,000 at closing. We're going to take over his mortgage at $1,500 a month. Okay. So now all the equity that's in the house from when he bought it at $219 back in 2017, we're gaining that equity. The $1,500 a month we're paying to the bank while we're rehabbing the house and holding it, $400 of that goes to the principal. So we're actually paying it down a little bit too, as opposed to a hard money interest only loan. But here's the big benefit of subject two. I don't have to go out and get a $210,000 loan.
Absolutely.
All I got to do is come up with 8 plus closing costs, call it 2. I got to come up with 10 grand and 25,000 on a rehab. Now, what is that? That's what, $35,000, $37,000. Is that a lot easier to get than trying to go get a hard money loan for 210 plus the 35, and then you got to bring 20% down?
Wow.
A lot of people out there that are going to do that. So subject two provides the opportunity to get into the deal without having to leverage yourself, right? And there's a lot more that goes into this. And for the sake of time, I can't get into that right now, but we can talk about that maybe individually offline. But there's certain documents you need to put in place called a land trust. And there's a mechanical mechanism that protects you as the investor and protects the seller. Because if I walk out the closing table and I get hit by a truck, I can't pay that mortgage. Right. And in essence, I'm in breach of contract. So now the seller's in great shape. Their mortgage is caught current. They got $5,000 in their pocket. I own the house, but now I'm laying flat on the concrete. They go to the attorney and say, hey, we got that land trust. Move the trustee from Carson over to me, and they get their house back. Right. People will say, well, wait a minute. I don't want my house back. I can't afford to keep it now. Well, it took you 5 months to get to this point of behind the payments, right? You're current. You got $5,000 in your pocket. I got hit by a truck. Let's say it's 6 months later. You get the house back. You've moved on. Now you got the burden of the mortgage again, but you own the asset.
Right.
Now you got another 4 or 5 months to sell it without making a mortgage payment, just like you did last time. But that very, very, very rarely happens. But in those worst case scenarios, that's how you protect the seller. And they see that and they go, oh, okay, I get it.
Right.
And that's how subject to works. But you asked me, do I look for those? I don't necessarily go out and look for those, but my marketing kind of brings them to me because we focus on distressed properties, financial distress, those types of things. But more to the point, Glenn, as an investor, you can't just be single-minded. I'm going to buy it and flip it, buy it and flip it. You have to have multiple acquisition strategies. Hey, can I do this subject to? Can I do owner financing? Maybe they'll carry back that note on me. Can I pay them a little bit of money, maybe their profit on the front end, and maybe they're getting $50,000 of profit? What if I give them $10,000 now and I give them 50 on the back end? Okay. So now I can defer some of my, all kinds of creative ways to do things like that. So I have multiple acquisition strategies and then have multiple exit strategies. Can I wholesale this? Can I flip it? Can I buy it and hold it? Can I do a lease option on it? What are the things I can do on it? Can I put an owner wrap on it? Okay. There's all kinds of ways. So they're kind of like arrows in your quiver. You've got multiple, if you only have one arrow, you lose that arrow and it doesn't work because you missed the target, then you've got no other way of attacking that target. So have multiple strategies. And it's not to say that you can't start without having multiple strategies. You can. I did. I was going to wholesale. That's all I was going to do. Okay. As it turned out, my first deal I ever did was a subject to deal.
Wow.
Because I understood the concept. A friend of mine who knew more than I did, still does, his name is Mark. He taught me that strategy and it resonated with me and I grasped it and I understood it. And I said, this sounds like that. So you help me structure the deal. So once again, don't be afraid to talk to other people about structuring those deals because they'll help you. And it lends credibility to you because now you know how to do these things. And he helped me with the rehab estimate. He helped me with the ARV because I didn't have access to that. And I came out of the gate credible. So if you're just getting started, you need to do those types of things. But subject to is a great mechanism, and especially with what's going on right now in our economy. In my opinion, and from what I've been reading and talking to others, it looks to me as if after July, when all this PPP money runs out and people are going back to work, we're going to have a lot of foreclosures. There's a lot of forbearance that are going to come due on these properties. There's a lot of divorces that are going to come out of this, sadly. And there's going to be a lot of houses being put on the market. There's going to be people that have lost jobs that are financially distressed. We can provide these people solutions. I think subject to is going to be a huge component of what we can do out there. And the banks will probably love us for it in the end because they're going to have all these non-performing assets that will make perform. The biggest risk to me is if the note gets called. I've got money in the deal. Well, then I just go out and get a loan like I would have done before. If the deal was good there, it should be good to get the loan anyway, right? Definitely. So there's always a way out of that, okay? So I'm never really too concerned. And quite honestly, less than 1% of all subject to deals ever have a note called, okay? And I'll reiterate this again. It is not illegal. Banks just don't like it. It's like carrying a gun, okay? If you've got a carry permit, you can carry a gun anywhere you want in the country except federal buildings and locations. If a restaurant says it's a gun-free zone and you've got your gun on your side covered and they don't know about it, it's not illegal.
Not illegal.
If they see it, they can ask you to leave and you have to leave, but it's not illegal. Same concept, because the banks could say, hey, we don't like that, we're calling the note due. All right, you got to comply with that. But most times they don't even know it because you've got your shirt covering your gun.
Great stuff.
That's what the land trust will do too. The land trust provides anonymity because in a land trust, it looks as if that person potentially moved away and is renting the property and is having a management company manage the property for them. So if you're at 123 White Street, you have the White Street Trust. It's that simple.
It's what banks don't frown upon because it appears to be estate planning.
Exactly.
So listen, great stuff, man. And these are the components I mean, you shared some great stuff, and somebody asked a question that I'm going to get you to give some information about as well. But you added a lot of the components that when going into a subject to, I've heard so many different investors talk about subject to, but you gave detailed instruction and detailed information about how a lot of that comes together. One of the main things a lot of investors don't know about or even use is the land trust strategy. Like a lot of them will go in and they'll put that subject to that they'll just take the deed into their company's name. Right. You cover the person that's supposed to be insured. So there's so many different components in that you actually pointed out that is great information that people need to be paying attention to.
So when you're looking at a potential opportunity in subject to, some of the information you need from the seller is critically important. Mm-hmm. So you want to get their most updated mortgage statement. So you want to know how much is left on the loan, what their interest rate is. Is it variable rate? Is it a fixed rate? What's the maturity date of the loan? Did they take it out in 2010 or did they take it out yesterday? How much equity has been paid down on it? Because the deeper you get into that amortization schedule, the loan, the more it goes towards principal. So sometimes you'll run across these deals where they're 10, 15 years into the mortgage. Those are golden because now the mortgage is almost paid off. Right. If you turn around and rent it, I mean, you can cover that thing, have that house paid off in a lot less time. But you need to know the mortgage information, the loan number, who it's to, how do I make the payment there, how much is going to principal, how much is going to interest, how much is going to taxes, and how much is going to insurance, okay? Because the insurance that's there stays there, okay? They're going to continue, you're going to pay it, but it's going to be in their name, and you as the buyer are going to add yourself as a additional insured on their policy so that you can make a claim, okay, if it's possible, so you've got access.
That other major component that they need to have with that's the letter to I forgot. I'm drawing a blank. The letter to be able to speak on their behalf to the mortgage company in the event they called it.
And the reason that's important, and your attorney will draw that up, it allows you at the closing table when you sell the house in a year, 2 years, 5 years, you don't got to go hunt them down because the mortgage is in their name, and you need to get a payoff 5 years down the road. This gives you the legal authority to talk to the bank on their behalf. Okay. Absolutely. That's what Glenn's talking about, and that's really important. The other thing that's nice is your closing costs are a lot less because you don't have to pull appraisals, you don't have to do all title search. It's already there. So you're usually knocking about $800 off of the closing, and it goes much quicker because you don't have all that mumbo jumbo to deal with. It's pretty straightforward. If you got everybody involved, it's just a matter of making sure everything's paid up, and you close within a week. It can move very, very quickly. And keep in mind, you do not need a payoff letter from the bank, okay? You don't need that because you're not paying the mortgage off. All you need to know is how far behind are they, okay? And what you need from the bank is for them at that point, since you don't have that letter that Glenn just mentioned, you need to get them to get what they call a catch-up letter, basically. It's a letter of reinstatement. If Grandma gave me a whole bunch of money, I want to catch my mortgage up current. Don't say I'm selling the house, okay? Have the seller call the bank and say, hey, Grandma gave me a whole bunch of money or whatever. If I wanted to catch my mortgage current, what do I need to pay you? And they'll give you a dollar amount by such and such a day. So if today's June 1st, they'll say you owe us $6,947.12 by June 15th, okay? And they got the interest in there and you'll see it all. And so then if you send them less than that, they won't even cash the check. So you got to make sure you know what that number is exactly from the bank. Okay. One of the mistakes we made on another deal, which we rectified, was we took that number from the seller and it was wrong. And the buyer who bought the property after I wholesaled it sent their check in and the bank never cashed it.
Wow.
And so she had to come up with a little bit more money because the number the seller gave and what the bank needed were a little bit off because there's attorney fees and the stuff that's in there that the bank's been dealing with. Okay. So you need that payoff, not a payoff letter, the catch-up letter. And there's a term for it. I just can't remember it off the top of my head, but
I know. Yeah. We draw blanks, but we know the documents that are necessary.
Right. I see one of the Facebook users here is asking for somebody that's sub-2 friendly an attorney here in the area. So
That's
Glenn,
it.
I don't know if you allow that on your
Oh,
phone.
absolutely. I'll let you go ahead and answer that question. Absolutely. That was the question when you were talking about that I was saying that we were going to get to. But yeah, absolutely. If you could share with them who you would recommend as a sub-to friendly. I have a couple that I use that I could recommend.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them. I'm up here on the north side of Atlanta, so obviously this isn't a national attorney that you could use, but the lady I work with, her name is Nancy Wasden, WASDIN, with Wasden Law, and she is highly effective and is very well versed in this. She's very methodical, she's cautious, and she dots her I's and crosses her T's, and she puts all that paperwork together. It costs some money. You're gonna have to pay for the title, all the normal closing stuff, but you're also gonna have to pay for the land trust, which is an additional cost, and those types of things. But these are the components, legal components you need. Not all attorneys will even handle sub-to deals, and that's why this person probably asked that question, because they're probably running into that. They won't do a sub-to deal. But Nancy and her team, they do a lot of. I've done probably 20 of them or so in my 3 years, and they've all been very, very well done. And we've sold them down the road, or had the people that bought them turn around and sell them, and she keeps all the records and she'll help out. You're gonna have to do some work. She's not gonna babysit you on the whole thing, but she'll walk you through the process. So Nancy Wasden, she's in the Johns Creek area, but she is mobile, and you might see her at a lot of different RIAs around the area.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great stuff. I know Florence is one. Florence and what's the other? Florence and Harlan, I think. Florence and Harlan. Again, drawing blanks. Rand and Associates. I know
Rand, we're closing with Rand today. We got a Rand today.
Mm-hmm.
And someone asked here, what's Nancy's last name? Wasden, WASDIN, Wasden Closing Group.
Okay.
So yeah, Rand and Associates. There's a couple others. Like I don't know if Harlan does it or not.
Harlan Associates, yeah, they do it. They've done one of mine. One of the ones I did about 2 years ago.
Right.
So I imagine they're still doing them.
Yeah, and I see him at a lot of the RIAs as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's who I use. I use her for almost everything I do, and she's very effective.
Great stuff. So let's see. We have Harlan Associates, pretty good, and I don't know who that is, but okay, Harlan Associates is pretty good, they say.
Yeah.
Listen, Carson, you've given some great information. What's the course that you teach? Where's your course?
I don't teach any courses. I'm not, Carlton Cheeks here with my CD program over here.
Right. Speaking of which, let me ask you, and this is a question that I need to make sure I'm getting more in the habit of asking my guests. Who is your mentor, and who are the people, or who are the persons that you look to specifically for guidance, and who is your mentor? Do you have a specific mentor, if you don't mind sharing?
I don't have a specific mentor. My mentors are the collective, right? Mm-hmm. I gain knowledge from everybody. When I first started out, one of my personal friends, his name is Mark Gelber. He owns a property management company here in Atlanta. He was very insightful with the creative deal structure that he taught me. I wouldn't call him my mentor specifically, but he was a wealth of knowledge at a time when I really needed it. And I had some things that he needed as well, and some of the marketing and the sales things like that. And he was very influential in what I did. Quite honestly, he's the one that kicked my butt off the bench. I was sitting on the bench, kind of the paralysis from analysis, right? Mm-hmm. I got all this information. I'm drinking through a fire hose. I'm like, how do I start? And he very effectively says, hey, that's a great excuse. You're going on vacation. What are you doing next week? Oh, I got to go to the pool. That's a great excuse. You don't want to go to that meeting. Good excuse. And he just kind of razzing me a little bit. And I said, okay. And I got into it. And I kind of just, shook the frost off the shoulders a little bit and said, okay, I can do this. And with the help of my wife encouraging me and the Lord kind of directing me, we were able to get this thing started off. And I couldn't be here without all the people in my life that have gotten me here, and I'll never forget that. And I still need those people. And hopefully I have strengths that I can provide them in different areas where they have potential weaknesses. And that's my my goal, is to just work with others. So who's my mentor? Networking is my mentor. I learn from people that I network with. I've never taken any courses or anything like that. I've just kind of learned from the street and just got out there and did it. And I was cautious enough to make some mistakes, to learn from those. But quite honestly, I hedged against those mistakes by partnering with other people that would allow me to learn and be cautious, because they guided me and gave me the information I needed to be successful. And now I can use that, hopefully, to help others. So I don't teach any classes, but I do own a RIA with a partner of mine named Scott Young. We're up in Gainesville. We meet the last Wednesday of every month from 6:30 to 9:30, and it is an educational RIA. So we're bringing in speakers from all over the area and sometimes the country that talk about various topics. But there's about 45 minutes to an hour of networking on the front end in a very social atmosphere. And then we bring in a speaker for about an hour on a specific content piece, grab a bite to eat, listen, and then more networking afterwards to talk about specific questions and that kind of thing. So you can grow your business and learn about several topics. It's for investors, it's for agents, it's for brokers, for GCs, for pressure washers. It's for anybody that wants to get involved in real estate, really for anybody. So that's one of the platforms I use to teach. I've spoken at that, as well as my partner. We've had a lot of people that you probably already know in the area. Stacy Rossetti has spoken. Kevin Jefferson.
I've never spoken there. I don't know why.
Well, you've been invited. I know I have. I invited you a couple of weeks ago.
I'm sure I have.
COVID's not been helping that, because we haven't met since what? We didn't meet March, April, May.
Right. It's been a while, yeah.
We're not going to meet till July, but we would love to have you up.
Absolutely.
And we've got sponsors up there, table booth sponsors, so we're always looking for more of those. So that's kind of one of my platforms. We want to bring education so people walk out of there with some nugget that they can use and it's worthwhile, plus building their network. But I also mentor. I do limited mentoring. I don't charge people to mentor. I have 3 associates I'm working with right now. And simply put, we have an agreement that I'm going to teach you how to find deals. You're going to bring those deals to me. We're going to work those deals together. We're going to close those deals. And based on the front end agreement that we made, I'm going to get this amount percentage. You're going to get that amount. And you're going to grow to the point you don't need me anymore. I'm not going to charge you $5,000 a month or buy my CD program. I'm going to give you what you need, but you're going to put time and effort into this, and you're going to learn. And if I feel you're not using what I'm teaching you in a timely manner, my time's worth something. So I'm going to pull back from you. So you're going to have to put forth that effort. And I take several associates on from time to time and bring them into my deals, say, hey, this is an active flip. This is what we're doing. I'm going on a sales call. We're going to close this deal. We're going to get it under contract. And you see the process. We'll talk about those things, how to find deals and all that stuff. So I do mentor on that regard. So I don't charge for that, but I do get paid. I get paid for the deal. And I think that's fair because, I'm spending my time and you're getting an education. Do I get a heavier end of it? Yeah, but you can pull out at any time. There's no time commitment. It's not like you have to be with me for a year. When you feel that you're not getting anything out of me, as long as our deals aren't under contract, we can walk away. And that's really the goal, because I don't want you to work for me. I want you to have your own brand. I want you to have your own business, and I want you to give you the tools to be an equal with all of us out here in the investment world.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Okay, listen, we're coming up on just about our time, but I want to make sure folks have an opportunity. I mean, especially since you mentioned that you offer that. How can the people that are watching, how can they reach out to you, and how can they get in contact with you?
Okay, well, I appreciate the opportunity and the platform. So once again, my name is Carson Olinger. I can be reached on my cell phone at I give you my Google number actually, and it goes to my cell phone, and I can never remember that. But my number is 470-485-4173. That number is 470-485-4173. Or you can email me directly at info@capcityeg.com. That's C as in Charlie, A, P as in Paul, City, E as in Edward, G as in golf.com. That's short for Capital City Equity Group. My website is Cap City EG. You can fill out an investor form there, and you can get tied into all my wholesale deals that I put out there and be put on my buyers list. If you want to see my website and what it looks like for my buyers, that my people that I'm buying from, I call them my sellers actually, but that's NorthAtlantaHomebuyer.com, NorthAtlantaHomebuyer.com. Follow me on Facebook at Carson Olinger. You can subscribe to my YouTube page at Carson Olinger, or go to my Facebook page at Capital City Equity Group. So those are really the best ways to reach out to me.
Got it. One last question. Someone asked, what CRM are you using to manage your wholesaling and flip systems?
Well, that's an excellent question. That's a conversation I had to put an hour before you and I hooked up, because I'm looking at maybe changing that, because the one I'm using is not being supported anymore. It does what I need it to do, but I can't scale it up. And what I'm currently using is REI Mobile. It's REI Mobile. And it's tied into my website, and it also provides a platform to send out my wholesale deals in a professional format, as opposed to using MailChimp, which is fine, but I like the look of this system. But it's becoming to the end of its life. The company that supports it is trying to migrate into another platform, which I'm evaluating. But at that point, since I got to change, I'm looking at several. So I'm trying to find a system that does everything that I need it to do, from bringing the leads off my website and populating my CRM to allow me to send out wholesale deals from that CRM with my database of investors and real estate agents and everybody. And then at the same time, also allow it to scale up to do other things with maybe people that I bring on board. For instance, project managers or those types of things. So Podio is one that's been mentioned. There's a couple other proprietary ones that are out there that I can't remember right now, but I'm exploring that now, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
But
Okay. So you're exploring Podio now?
well, not necessarily Podio specifically, but that's one of the ones I will explore. We just started talking about that today, because I'm trying to generate more leads through my website, and I need to look at who's managing that and how well that's going, because potentially I could get some more leads from my website. It's been something I've been trying to spend more time on, but these closings keep getting in the way. I got to eat.
Oh, such a problem you're having. These closings keep getting in the way.
Well, I see that with a tempered mentality. I've got to sustain my lifestyle, right? So I'm constantly working the deals. Not to say that I just can't handle it, or that I've got more that I don't need. I don't want to be that boastful. I'm not. What I'm saying is I've just been so busy lately that I haven't had time to focus on growing my business, which as an investor, you always got to be looking at that. You can't just say, right, a website, let's go, I'm set for 50 years. It doesn't work that way. You've got to constantly be bringing in additional content, changing what it states, because now look at what we're getting into. I want to try and focus more on foreclosures and things like that to bring people to my site. So how do I do that more effectively? How do I generate more leads? If I generate more leads, can I handle those leads? Do I need to bring people on? So what's the process of that? So once again, goals. I need to figure out where I'm going. I can't put the cart before the horse. I can't hire somebody and then not have leads for them to support. So I got to get the leads first and then bring them on. So that's how that's going.
Great stuff. So listen, Carson, great information today. So I'm actually gonna, because I get to keep this video, I'm gonna go back and take some notes. So let me ask you this before we go. What words of wisdom would you share with the folks that are watching, or that will probably eventually watch? What words of wisdom would you share with them about getting started investing in real estate?
I would say know your numbers by teaming up with somebody that's smarter than you to make sure that you establish credibility in your numbers and in your business. Be credible, be honest, have integrity, and don't chase the dollar. Have something more in mind than money. Okay, to me, it's helping other people. Money's going to come. It's going to come in, and it has. But the Lord gave me focus, and you may have somebody else that you look at for your guidance, and that's fine. But for me, that's what I'm driven for. I want to help other people. I want to create solutions for them. So I look at it from that. And I use this term from my buddy Mark. He said, the pig eats and the hog gets slaughtered. Don't be a hog. Being greedy ain't going to get you anywhere. Money, I've given up $4,000 or $5,000 on deals because I shook a man's hand and said the deal was his and we didn't have a contract. And I got $5,000 offer an hour later and I turned it down because I gave him my word. and he's a repeat buyer from me. He buys continually. So that's well worth it. Longevity. I'm not worried about today. And I was hungry at the time. I needed that $5,000, but I said, I'm not going to sell out for any amount of money.
Right.
So those are my words of wisdom. If you can run your business ethically, honestly, and morally, and help other people, you're going to do extremely well in any business you run.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Carson, thank you a lot, man. I appreciate it. I mean, and from the very beginning, you've actually spoken all of the things that you said at the end for the words of wisdom, you know, honesty, integrity, you know, solutions provider. You know, that's something that I always want to emphasize to people that look at getting into the business of real estate investing. And you know, the major thing is not just chasing the dollar. Not just chasing the dollar. Of course, this is a business that we want to get into because it makes us, you know, a significant living, and we can, you know, become comfortable. But the primary focus should not just be the dollar, because in those cases, a lot of times people lose focus on one of the major things that we do in this business, and that's help people and provide solutions. And I want to thank you for continuously echoing that throughout, you know, this entire program today. And thank you for being who you are in, you know, in our community, you know, as a man in our real estate investing community. And, you know, I'm going to certainly be leaning on you quite a bit more, you know, and collaborating and doing some things, you know, because I know you're a man of integrity. I mean, not just from today, but, you know, just watching you and watching the things that you do, and the way that you partner and share and collaborate with people. I want to be a part of that. And I definitely want to be invited to the RIA group. So I'm definitely coming to check that out as well.
We will make that happen. I appreciate that, Glenn. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your show. You've got a great platform. You're an animal in this space, man. You really know how to do this. And that's something I need to learn how to do, because you promote yourself and you bring value to others. And I appreciate not only the platform, but the opportunity to work with you and the people that follow you. Glenn, you're a great guy, and I love being a part of what you do. And I'm looking forward to doing some greater things with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much again. And again, folks, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you all for tuning in to hear the great stuff that Carson had to share with us today. And once again, this is the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show, where we talk about real life real estate situations, where we bring you real life real estate solutions. Thank you all for watching. Be sure you tune in next week. Same time, same channel.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you.